Hi, boys and girls. Well, we're going to look at how do penguins repel, that means push off, the water from their wings once they get out of that cold, freezing water so they don't turn into a penguin popsicle. Because we know that if the water comes out with them and then freezes onto their bodies, then they would be penguin popsicles. But they've got a very clever way of making the water go right off, repel off their feathers so that their feathers don't freeze. So what you're going to need is some water, which is what I have here in this cup. Probably need a couple of Q-tips or a way to rub oil onto your hand. Some oil, and I'm going to use vegetable oil. Baby oil works better, but I don't have any. So I had to think of a way to solve my problem. So I'm using vegetable oil. That I do have in the classroom. And then I've got another way to show you how to do this test if you don't want to use your skin and use oil. You can use brown paper and a crayon. So you also might need a way to be able to suck the water out of the container and be able to drop it gently onto your skin. Now, I'm lucky. I have this handy tool, but some people don't have this. So you could use a straw and suck it up a little bit and then put your thumb over the top of it to stop the water coming out until you're ready to drop it on your hand. Or you can use an eyedropper. Or you might even be able to use a teaspoon, but only put a teeny bit of water on it. So I'm going to use my handy dandy tool to suck up some water. There is now some water in there. I'm going to set that to the side. Then I'm going to make a prediction. Now, I've got my rounded part of my hand here, and I'm going to sit it very still right here and put 1 drop of water on there. So if I put 1 drop of water on there, it just sits there. I can't move my hand because if I move my hand, it might roll around. But that water sits there. Now, if I was a penguin with that drop of water on me and I got out into the freezing cold air, it would freeze on there and I'd be really cold. So I'll see if I can move it close to the camera. And you can see that I have 1 drop of water sitting right there. So now I'm going to take my sleeve and wipe that off. And what I'm going to do now is get my oil. I'm going to get a Q-tip, dip it in the oil, roll it around a little bit so it soaks up the oil. The extra will drop off. And I'm going to rub that onto my skin. Rub it, rub it, rub it. And then I'm going to dry it off a little bit because I've got a bit too much on there. Now my skin is very shiny because it's got the oil on that spot. I'm going to put the lid on the oil in case I knock it over. And then Mrs. Clapp would be very disappointed if there was water all over her table where the computer is. And you can sort of see how shiny that is where I put the oil on my skin. Now I'm going to get my dropper and put my drop of water on there and we'll see what happens. Whoa. Ah, did you see that? The water ran right off. It didn't stay on my skin at all, and I'm holding my hand really steady. I'm going to do it again. Drop it. And it rolled right off. Now, the reason that happens is because oil repels water. And so penguins have a very special gland inside their mouth, and they preen their wings, that means kind of comb them, and put oil all over their feathers so that when they jump out of that freezing cold ocean, they just shake, and the oil on their feathers makes the water fall right off. So that way the water doesn't stick to them, and then they don't freeze. Now, another way you can test this is get my brown paper bag, and if I put a drop of water on my brown paper bag, just kind of sits there, and eventually that will soak into their brown paper bag and it will make a wet spot. So it's just sitting on my brown paper bag and it's made a big old wet spot. It's kind of hard to see on the camera there. I'll move it closer. But see how it's made a wet spot on there? All right, because it's soaking into the paper. And if I had that in the freezing air, it would freeze. But now, if I take my crayon, which is a waxy substance, and I rub really hard, I've got to rub hard, and put a coating on my paper bag. Now, when I put the drop of water onto the black, hold it up a little bit, and then tip it up, kind of runs right off there because it repels the water. See how it fell off and rolled down, whereas this one's soaking into the bag? So that's another way. A waxy, oily substance, which is what your crayon is, protects the bag from getting wet. But you can see the water trail coming down here. But there's no water trail here because the crayon repelled the water. So give it a test at your house. See what other items you can find that repels water and protects an item from getting wet. Okay, scientists, head on to it, my friends.